From high atop the battlements of Castle Curmudgeon, where the men are women, the women are men, and the sheep are just as confused as ever. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea. Welcome to the Blast Radius. Glad to be back with you after a one-week sojourn in lovely Tucson, Arizona. Lovely, in this case, being a euphemism for really quite miserable. And coming up on the Worst People in the Whole Wide World weekly update, Steve Colbert signs off for the very last time as the host of The Late Show on CBS, but nobody notices or cares. Commencement speakers across the country get booed and jeered for telling the truth about artificial intelligence. The Associated Press demands the prohibition of 18th century smoothbore muskets. And President Trump refuses to say whether he would defend Taiwan from a Chi-Com invasion. But first, Dateline Los Angeles, Monday, 11 May. Mayor Karen Bass abruptly pulled out of the second mayoral debate that was scheduled for Wednesday of this week, owing to the fact that she made such an impossible blithering fool of herself in the first debate. And you can't blame her, really, because when a mayoral debate goes so badly for the incumbent that the clips actually wind up going viral on social media, you're probably not going to be very eager to get back up on that horse just because it kicked you in your damn face the last time. Now, you remember Karen Bass. Back in 2020, she was on the short list for the vice presidential nomination after Joe Biden promised to choose a black woman running mate. And there's nothing that says, I am talented and competent, quite like getting passed over for a job in favor of the California cackler herself, Mrs. Doug Emhoff. If I didn't know better, I might almost suspect that old Joe, when he blurted out that I'm going to pick a black woman thing, had no idea just how short that short list was actually going to be, or that Kamala Harris would somehow improbably wind up being the most attractive name on it, or the least unattractive name, as the case may be. But there are always consolation prizes in Democrat Party politics. There's always a golden parachute if you're a sufficiently dutiful party apparatchik. So Karen Bass was given a nice soft landing spot in the Los Angeles mayor's office. And it only took her about 60 days after assuming office to burn down half the city. But she wasn't actually in the city when it burned down. You see, she was halfway around the world attending a birthday party for the president of Ghana. Now, what business does the mayor of Los Angeles have attending a Ghanaian birthday party? Unclear. But she seems to have realized pretty quickly this wasn't the best look in the world for her social media team. They did their level best to pretend that she actually was in Los Angeles and directly managing the fire response before that lie quickly fell apart, and it had to be grudgingly admitted that she was off gallivanting on the other side of the world during the first and most serious crisis of her tenure as mayor. Fast forward to last week, and Mayor Bass is now standing across the stage from Spencer Pratt, a reality TV personality who saw his home burn down along with the homes of all his neighbors in the aforementioned Palisades fire, and who was sufficiently horrified by the botched response of the city government, both to the fire itself and to its aftermath, that he decided to run for mayor. And Mayor Bass, in the debate last week, had no answers for anything, really. On the cause of the fire itself, she bizarrely tried to attribute it to climate change, despite the fact that there's a suspect in custody who's already pled guilty to starting the damn fire himself, which raises a series of difficult questions. Does Mayor Bass actually not know it was an arson fire? If not, how is that possible? Are Democrat office holders so accustomed to blaming everything on climate change that they just do it as a reflex action, assuming their friends in the fake news media will just help them get away with it? But Karen wasn't quite done digging her own political grave yet, for she went on to accuse Mr. Pratt of exploiting the grief of fire victims, which raises another series of difficult questions. Does Mayor Bass actually not know that Mr. Pratt is himself one of those fire victims? When her aides were preparing her for this debate, did they intentionally not supply her with any of the information she needed? Or are they just as stupid and incompetent as she is? If one didn't know better, one might almost suspect that when you hire a group of woke DEI underlings to advise a woke DEI mayor, the whole thing turns into a shit show. Will there be any more mayoral debates in Los Angeles this year? I would say not bloody likely. Dateline New York City, Tuesday, 12 May. The Late Show with Steve Colbert mercifully aired for the final time earlier this week and was watched by around half a dozen people. So it was a nominal improvement over his normal ratings. And true to form, there were no funny jokes, no witty repartee, no clever turns of phrase, just a self-important asshat feeling sorry for himself. And when you're an untalented partisan hack of a TV host who's been canceled for dismal ratings, what's the best way to give yourself a send-off? by bringing in 4 other untalented partisan hack TV hosts and instructing them to all take turns kissing your ass, which is a bold move indeed, because let's face it, Steve Colbert by himself is insufferable enough. But on this night, we got, well, I shouldn't say we, it's not like I watched the damn thing. We got not just Steve Colbert, but the whole Smarmaladian Olympic team, the idiot Jimmy Fallon, the idiot Seth Meyers, the idiot John Oliver, and the idiot James Kimmel. How many of those jackasses will still have a job 1 year from now? Hard to say, but it might be 0. It's a bold move, really, when you've been fired for being terrible at your job and losing your employers an unconscionable sum of money, and you treat your last day as some sort of valedictory, like you're goddamn Johnny Carson riding into the sunset of retirement. And speaking of Johnny Carson, how many viewers did his Tonight Show typically attract? Well, on average, between 12 million and 17 million per evening. And how many viewers did these 5 idiots typically attract? Combined, under 6 million. Less than half of what Carson got on a bad night. Did Carson ever act as arrogant and self-important as these guys act? He did not. Did Carson ever act like he was God's gift to television? Nope. Did Carson ever portray himself as a political martyr? He did not. And most importantly, did Carson ever turn himself and his show into a tedious, nakedly partisan series of ideological harangues designed to alienate half the country's population? Again, the answer is nope. Somehow, as their cultural relevance has been reduced nearly to 0, these men have only grown more hubristic and somehow more self-satisfied. They're a lot like Hollywood that way, I suppose, because it's not about entertaining the public anymore. It hasn't been about that for quite some time. All that matters is the message. All that matters is trying to mock and shame people into thinking all of the same things that you think. And in the case of Steve Colbert in particular, one can't help wondering how much regret there is around CBS headquarters that they hired him for that gig in the first place, because he used to have a pretty funny show back when he was playing a fictional character. When Letterman retired and they announced Colbert as his replacement, it was my assumption, and a lot of other people's assumption, I think, that he was going to continue playing that same fictional character. It came as a surprise that he was hired to play himself, because there was no reason to believe himself was funny or talented or could carry a late-night network comedy show without the same set of writers that he had over at Comedy Central. And oh boy, did we all get the answer. And the answer was not good. And we had the answer long before we ever saw those anthropomorphic syringes sashaying across the stage of the Ed Sullivan Theater. But still, that was a rather nice exclamation point on the sentence, don't you think? But since Colbert has played his part as a dutiful functionary for the Democrat Party, we know he will get the standard retirement package. First, he will write a memoir that nobody reads. Then he will get a Netflix documentary that nobody watches. But he will get a cool 20 or $30 million out of the deal, because that is just how these things work. But then, after he's blown through all that cash, we will be here to warmly welcome Mr. Colbert to his new future as a YouTuber, making a couple $100 a day if he is lucky. Will that fix his Messiah complex? I doubt it. But nonetheless, it will be great fun to watch. Dateline Orlando, Wednesday, 13 May. A commencement speaker at the University of Central Florida was showered with boos and jeers earlier this week after she declared that artificial intelligence represents the next industrial revolution, which doesn't seem very unreasonable or offensive on its face, but I guess we should never underestimate the emotional fragility of 21st century university students. Gloria Caulfield, Vice President of Strategic Alliances at Tavistock Development Company, an Orlando-based real estate investment firm, seemed visibly shaken and confused when her seemingly offhand remark was met with such a viscerally negative reaction from the audience, which leads me to believe she's not very much accustomed to interacting with today's young people. But as it would happen, this reporter had a similar experience this week at Tuesday's commencement ceremony for the Arizona State Business School, where the featured speaker was some tech bro executive dude who gave just about the worst, most boring, most uninteresting, most relentlessly monotonous speech that can be imagined. And I'm not saying that just because it was 8 o'clock in the evening and still 102 goddamn degrees in Tempe in the middle of May. But suffice it to say, that didn't help. Frankly, if this guy had been speaking at Central Florida instead of ASU, the students might have stormed the stage and dismembered him outright, because he was a lot less polite than Ms. Caulfield was. The thesis of the speech, near as I could tell, amounted to: you live in a miserable place, you have a dismal future, and the degrees you have just earned are already worthless because you will just be replaced by an AI robot Anyway, I'm not sure exactly where they found this guy, but as motivational speeches go, it really wasn't one. And then all of a sudden, as if just for the sake of extra absurdity, he blurts out the fact that he used three different AI chatbots to write this speech. And I'm like, really? It takes 3 chatbots to write a speech that sucks this bad? You're serious right now? You're a multimillionaire tech bro and you can't write a 20-minute monologue? You're a corporate CEO and you were this bad at public speaking? He's just staring down at the page the whole time, never looking up, never modulating his pitch. And this is supposed to be something that young people find motivational and uplifting? But as it turns out, I missed the real treat at the previous night's commencement ceremony for the main Arizona State student body. Whom did they have for their keynote speaker? None other than the corpse of Harrison Ford. And what did the corpse of Harrison Ford talk about? Well, let's just say that if you were going to use an AI chatbot to write this speech, your user input might look something like, write the dumbest, wokest speech in the history of mankind, being sure to pander to every fashionable left-wing social justice cause that currently exists. Don't believe me? Quote, we need cultural change. We need to extend social justice. We need to respect and elevate the indigenous peoples that are being marginalized and in many cases killed in cold blood. End quote. And this is just a mere 2 sentences out of a much larger load of bullshit. But even still, there is much to unpack here. What does cultural change mean? Unclear. What does extend social justice mean? Also unclear. Where in the United States in 2026 are large numbers of indigenous peoples being killed in cold blood? Unclear. This dude makes it sound like the Wounded Knee Massacre happened like last Tuesday, but that's not important now. The important thing is that you vomit out all the correct platitudes and enjoy the feeling of self-righteousness that accompanies the vomiting. Meanwhile, out in the crowd, student 1 says to student 2, who is this crusty old fart anyway? And student 2 says, I don't know, I think he's some actor from the 70s that my grandma likes. Dateline Crazy Town, Thursday, 14 May. The Associated Press, that touchstone of impartiality and journalistic rigor, complained this week that it is still illegal to own 18th century smoothbore muskets from the Revolutionary War era. Do I wish I was making this up? I do. But alas, quote the AP, a musket from 1776 can fire a lead ball at a velocity of around 1,000 feet per second. Imagine what that can do to a human body. Yet, under federal and most state laws, it's exempt from gun regulations. Many antique or replica guns aren't considered firearms, and even convicted felons can own them, end quote. Now, what actual point is the AP attempting to make here? Hard to say, but it seems abundantly clear that they have a problem with the fact that it's legal to own an 18th century firearm with an effective range of around 50 yards and a maximum rate of fire of 4 rounds per minute. It's almost like the idiot who wrote this tweet for the AP lays awake at night wondering why there haven't been more smoothbore musket massacres. Moreover, it is further evidence, as if we needed it, that the people who are most eager to ban guns are the people with the least amount of relevant knowledge on the subject. But just for shits and giggles, let's imagine you wanted to use a smoothbore musket to perpetrate some sort of mass casualty event. First of all, assuming you've already got the musket, you're probably going to need to manufacture your own ammunition, which means not just casting your lead balls, but assembling the cartridges as well. But let's say you are highly motivated and technically adept enough to pull off that part of the equation. Once you've got your victims in your sights, you will need to rest the butt of your musket on the ground, reach into your cartridge box, retrieve a cartridge, bite off the paper to expose the powder, pour the main charge down the barrel, cock the weapon, pour the remaining powder into the pan, load the ball and the paper wad into the barrel, retrieve the ramrod, ram down the ball and powder, replace the ramrod, take aim, and fire. It takes about as long to complete the process as it does to describe the process. If you were lucky enough to hit one of your victims with that first shot, you will need your other victims to hold still for another 20 or 30 seconds while you load your next shot. But let's be realistic here. If you actually want to kill multiple people with a smoothbore musket in a short period of time, you're going to have better luck either fixing a bayonet and stabbing them to death or using the thing as a club and bludgeoning them to death with it. In any event, this massacre is going to require a lot of patience and cooperation from the people you are trying to massacre. Because that's the thing about smoothbore muskets. They were so inaccurate and so unreliable. There were many military tacticians who thought they had more utility as bayonet platforms than they did as firearms. And depending on the individual situation, they weren't wrong. Even as late as the American Civil War, when rifled muskets had mostly supplanted smoothbore muskets, there were commanders on both sides who believed fervently that if you want to drive the enemy from the field as quickly as possible, you'd do it with a well-organized bayonet charge. But don't take my word for it. Ask Colonel Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain at Gettysburg. Ask General Thomas Jackson at First Bull Run. First Manassas for our Confederate viewers. Just don't ask the Associated Press, because they will look at you like you've got a penis growing out your forehead. And you may have also noticed that they didn't include only antique firearms in this gun grabber missive, but also, amazingly, they included replicas. In other words, they want to ban guns that aren't even guns. So I guess that means we're outlawing color guards, I suppose. That'll keep people safe from gun violence, by golly. Maybe they can just carry giant tampons instead. I bet the governor of Minnesota would like that. Dateline aboard Air Force One, Friday, 15 May. During the return trip from his just concluded summit meeting with Chi-Com leader Xi Jinping in Beijing, President Donald Trump told reporters that he refused to reveal to Chairman Xi whether the United States would defend the island of Taiwan from any attempted territorial incursion by the People's Liberation Army or the People's Liberation Army Navy or the People's Liberation Army Air Force. Do the Chi-Coms need to give less embarrassing names to their armed forces? Yes. Yes, they do, but that's not important now. The important thing is that I can't get enough of Trump's reactions to stupid questions. Quote, I don't want to say, I'm not going to say that. There's only one person that knows that. You know who that is? Me. I'm the only person. That question was asked to me today by President Xi. I said, I don't talk about these things. End quote. I just hope he reacted to Xi the same way he reacted to the reporter, but by rolling his eyes and scoffing and giving that look that says, you really are the dumbest person in the Western Hemisphere to be asking that question right now. Because what's he supposed to do? I give a definitive answer? Oh, I guess we would defend Taiwan, and here's exactly what our battle plan would be. If there is anything we know about Trump at this point, it's that he is a bigger fan of Nixon's madman theory than even Nixon himself ever was. And frankly, he is much better at it. The greatest strategic advantage you can have is when your enemies think you are crazy and unpredictable and liable to do anything at any time. There is no better way of keeping your adversaries on the back foot than that. When he was pressed further by the same reporter on the same line of questioning, the president said, quote, and this is a very Trumpy quote, so do pay close attention. I think we'll be fine. He doesn't want to see a war. And you have two things. You have the Iranian situation. On that, I think we agree almost entirely, other than he's a buyer and we're not. We don't need it. And on Taiwan, he doesn't want to see a movement for independence. He says, look, you know, we've had it for thousands of years, and then at a certain period of time it left and we were going to get it back. Add the Korean War. A lot of things happened. On Taiwan, he feels very strongly. I made no commitment either way. End quote. And frankly, I've got no idea what to make of that quote. Is it possible that he's not up to speed on the series of events that took place between the end of the Second World War and the continuation of the Chinese Civil War and the fleeing of the nationalist government to Taiwan? Yes, that is possible. But is it also possible that this is another application of the madman theory and he is feigning ignorance because he doesn't want anybody to know what he's really thinking? Yes, that's also possible. And I am not going to pretend I know which one it is. I just, God damn it, wish I could do a better Trump impression. I have had 10 years to work on it, and it's just not going to happen. Every other president in my lifetime, I can do a passable impression of them, except Jerry Ford, who just sounded like some random, ordinary guy. So it's impossible to do an impression of him unless you fall down some airplane stairs, which is the opposite of what you do when you're impersonating Joe Biden. And with that, here ends the WPWWWU for today, Sunday, the 17th of May, 2026. Thank you ever so much, ladies and gentlemen, for your kind attention, and I now transmit you into the custody of my distinguished colleague, your illustrious co-host, the one and only, your friend and mine, Mr. Caucasian Sasquatch.
Tactical nuke incoming!
They were black and iridescent, green when without number, and in front of Simon, the Lord of the Flies hung on his stick and grinned. At last Simon gave up and looked back, saw the white teeth and the dim eyes, the blood, and his gaze was held by that ancient, inescapable recognition, Lord of the Flies. I love it. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Blast Radius with my boy over here. We got the whole thing rolling on today. I'm sorry, I hate it. I don't hate it. I enjoy it. I love breaking down films and Netflix. I mean, it's not often I have good things to say about Netflix.
You know what never happens is we are never at odds with the audience critic ratio, because this production, we're talking about Lord of the Rings on Netflix, by the way, in case nobody has said that yet.
No, Lord of the Flies. Lord of the Flies. Not.
I knew I was going to do that at least once. I'll probably do it at least 3 more times.
I might now too.
Lord of the Flies. But I noticed an interesting disparity among the scorers, because this thing has got 95% critic score. Bizarrely, only a 59% audience score, and I was kind of confused by that, because that's kind of the opposite of what we see in recent years, when the audience either it'll have a huge critic score and a much smaller audience score, or vice versa. It never happens that the critics and the audience both like a thing, but I couldn't tell you the last time I found myself on the same side as the critics, so not sure quite how to feel about that.
Give it time.
Yeah,
it's only just been released, and as you stated, as you stated before, you watched the whole thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you mean to?
Well, when we say watched, let me be more specific on that. The first 2 episodes I watched very intently. The final 2 episodes I had started writing the monologue, so the second half I watched less attentively than the first half. I probably will have to go back and rewatch, but I watched it.
But you will.
Yes, and I watched enough of it, attentively enough, to be really quite pleased with it. I thought it was a fantastic adaptation, very well done, and with a lot of very obvious homages to Bridge on the River Kwai, which is my favorite movie. So that scores it a lot of bonus points.
I bet you there's more. I did notice the Bridge over the River Kwai bit with the walking choir doing that stoic step by step thing.
Well, and also, go ahead.
I was going to ask, were there other scenes that I missed? I noticed that one. That was almost a shot for shot reproduction.
The first thing that jumped out at me was the isolated shot of the eagle soaring in the sky, which is the same shot that Bridge on the River Kwai opens and closes with, and they used that shot several times. So that's obviously a very intentional homage, and I felt like there was some homaging going on with the music too. A very unusually traditional score for a current day production, the kind of score that you would expect from Elmer Bernstein, to make another River Kwai reference. A lot of very whimsical music, even in the first episode or two, and you don't often get traditional style orchestral scores in present day productions. Much more often, you get not even music so much, but just kind of droning sort of notes that are meant to tell you what emotion you're supposed to feel at any given
emotion, moment. And that's it. Yeah. So let's back up. Let's get back to the beginning. I'm sure most of you were forced to read the book in middle school. Were you?
I think everybody under a certain age was.
Right. So really feel like I have to explain the plot here, but really real brief. Plane crashes. Kids are stuck on an island. They develop something of a society. Problems occur. Problems are solved. Problems are not solved. People start disappearing. There's an evil pig monster. The Lord of the Flies is a pig on a stick. It's not that deep, but at the same time, it deals with a whole bunch of cultural interaction type things about how the in-group versus out-group and how that can flip-flop around based on just nothing more than opinion. It has huge ramifications in like the stress, psychological stress parts of the conceptual nature of it, and problem solving, all kinds of other things. One of my favorite devices in the book: the one person who knows what they need to do is incapable of doing it. I mean, the poor kid Nicky can't tie his own shoes, right?
Right.
But he's read every shipwreck book that's ever been written. He knows. He's read Robinson Crusoe 7 times. He knows what he needs to do. He just has no idea how to do it.
And all of a sudden, this knowledge has real world value.
Except it doesn't, because he doesn't know how to do it. Right. So,
I was going to say to the thing you were saying a moment ago that I've kind of always felt like Lord of the Flies was a work of political allegory in the same sense that Animal Farm is. I think there's a lot that ties those two stories together in terms of taking population level phenomena and boiling them down to a stage play, basically. In one
a distillation of society.
And in one case it's young boys, but you're doing the same thing. You're illustrating the fine line between civilization and chaos, which I think is the main thing that Lord of the Flies concerns itself with, and which this adaptation does too. It's very faithful to the book. I mean, as much as I remember the book, I probably haven't read it all the way through since it was assigned to me in high school. The only thing I really noticed that was discordant with the sequence of events from the books was that the fire is moved much earlier in the narrative than it was in the book, or as I recall the previous cinematic adaptations. Did you notice that too?
Between the initial building of the signal fire and the island burn, and the location of the signal fire after the island burn, I don't really remember it being legitimately moved intentionally, right? I don't remember a scene specifically where they're like, oh, we're going to do the signal fire over here. It was just, who was his name? Ralph decided to keep the fire since they couldn't. And honestly, Ralph takes on a lot of responsibilities out of this. And there's a lot to be said for the guy that don't want to be in charge, being in charge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because the guy who wants to be in charge has a psychopathic need to do so, whereas the guy who doesn't want to be in charge will reluctantly accomplish all of the tasks.
and it's kind of regrettable that in the place our culture is currently in, when you're watching a new adaptation of a classic novel or some pre-existing IP that's been around for a long time, and I'm sure I don't speak only for myself when I say this, that when I sit down to watch it, one of the first things in my head is, what are they going to do to wokeify this thing? Because you expect it now. You expect every old story, when it's adapted in the 2020s, to be wokeified and diversified and become turned into a vehicle for the message. That was not done here. And I love that it wasn't done here. And the fact that it wasn't done makes me even more surprised that it's got a 95% critics score, because normally the critics assign their scores and their approval just based on how wokeified it is. If it is a vessel for the message, then it gets a positive review. If it is a faithful adaptation, then throw it in the garbage. I want no more of it. So it's another kind of disconnect I see that I don't really have a good explanation for at the moment.
I think it's just that swing of the pendulum we talked about, how they've realized that you simply can't live in the past and have to start delivering ratings. The 59%, like I said, give it time. Everybody assumes everything Netflix does is, like you said, wokeified as all get out, and so they just don't bother tuning in at first. But when you go out and you say, no, it's actually a pretty good adaptation. And I agree. It's I don't think it's 100% faithful to the book, but it is 10,000% faithful to every previous adaptation made to film of this book. And there are a lot of homage shots from one film to the other. I don't know if you've seen the old black and white. I think it was filmed in the late 70s. It was one of the only films done in black and white back in the day. Like,
I think I've got a page right here that will answer that question, because I've got the let's see. Nope, it's the other page I need.
But just about every episode does this thing where it stops or locks or is doing like a fast pan of something and then zeroes onto a scene that is almost an identical frame representation of the older movies.
Yeah, and it's 1963, and
right.
The director was Peter Brook.
And it was again.
That comes out. That's only less than a decade after the book came out. So that's a pretty quick adaptation.
Yeah, and fairly faithful too. And it's, if you've ever seen the movie, it's terrifying. It is bona fide horror material, using the biggins against the littluns, and let's get into that. Okay. So the plot opens with Piggy, Nikki. Nikki is asthmatic, has bad ankles, gets cramps, can't throw a ball, can't blow a trumpet. He is basically one of those English middle-aged men who has read everything under the sun and has zero actual skills, but he's hell on a calculator, right? Does business calls like nobody.
Middle-aged man in a preteen body.
Yeah, middle-aged man in a preteen body, stuck in a middle management mindset. What's up, poor dirt farmer? Welcome in.
Yep, and uses his asthmatic condition as an excuse to not do anything physically formidable.
Right. So he does the one thing that he is actually really good at, apparently. He identifies a good leader out of the whole group of children. And there's about, 22, 27, something like that?
Yeah, a couple dozen.
And out of the whole group, he chooses this individual, Ralph. Ralph, who is, the second biggest out of the group, but he's also one of the least demanding, as it were.
Yeah, he's the right? He's the biggest and oldest who's not in the choir group. Or the hunter group, or whatever you want to call them.
Well, the
choir group that becomes the hunter group.
Is the hunter group, and actually becomes the military, ultimately, when it comes down to it.
Yeah, more or less. Yep.
The police force, the the force of the state, as it were.
And I don't want to help you build your stupid hut. I've been out hunting all day.
Right.
I ain't no
Right.
damn manual laborer.
I'm a hunter, and that
And
carries status, sir.
But that's just one more layer that even that quickly they start stratifying by class,
Right.
just like at the population level would an entire society. It's one of those.
Okay, let's give the let's give the film the series itself a say. It's a minute and 17 seconds, and we're going to stop it a couple of times because of all those damnable copyright people out there that turn us off mid. Aztec Batman, bro.
Aztec Batman, for fuck's
That's
sake.
the one that got us.
Aztec Batman.
The sky is darkening, and the beast is close at hand. Hello? Hello?
Were you all on the plane?
We were, and now we're trying to find out exactly where we are.
What nonsense.
Who's coming with me? When you think about the little ones, can't care for themselves, Jack.
Who are you, anyway?
If you stand out of the way, he'd happily hurt the next thing.
That's a good line. That's a good line.
And
Ralph stands
the,
there so that he takes the hurts the little ones can't take.
One of the visual devices they used in this that I really liked is that for our background characters, rather than having the audience try to get to know them, by just giving them each one little snippet of dialogue or whatever, they do a series of extreme fisheye lens facial close-ups of each character, and they do it a few times, and I think that was a really effective device. It's a much better way of connecting the audience with each individual player than you would achieve by trying to invent a line of dialogue for each one of the kids, don't you think?
You see this, Scotty Waddles? The monster was the wild pig. Funny ending. I think you missed the point of the book, bro. There was only ever one pig and two piglets. Ever. Now,
Yep.
you will notice that after they kill the pig, there's no food for a significant portion of the next portion of the book, and then suddenly
just some papayas.
just papayas. That's right, and they were all having the Wanabe trots, if you will, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then suddenly the hunter takes over, and there's feasts every night. They have pig every night. Now I can't remember how many of them little ones there were running around at the beginning of this week, but they seem to be a lot easier to keep up with now.
Yeah. You know which scene I thought they played really well? What was the scene where it's Piggy and Jack out on the hunt, and Jack, who fancies himself the big fancy lead hunter, loses his nerve and can't bring himself to kill the piglet that eventually runs off, and everybody goes hungry for another night. And Jack is very intent that this knowledge not be known by the rest of the group, and he extracts a promise to that effect, and because he cares more about his reputation than he does about his next meal, which is very British of him.
Very. But there's more to it than that, I think. I think that is the introduction of the heavier psychology that's sprinkled throughout the book. Simon's ability just to get over people hurting him. Ralph's ability to disagree to agree while disagreeing. That little clever linguistic trick that he constantly uses where he's like, yeah, and no, you're right. And I'm going to do this to help, He's
naturally skilled at diplomacy and management and doesn't even realize it. But Piggy realized it, which is why he promoted his candidacy to be the chief.
Right. And when it comes down to it, the monster, the beast, as it were, was their own animal instincts. It wasn't so much that they were worried about the wild pigs in the forest. That wasn't what was killing people.
The monster effectively is human nature unrestrained by civilizational expectations.
Right. And I have a personal fan theory about this section of it. So if cannibalism is actually what we're discussing with the whole pigs and the hunting and what the hunters were doing, then the question comes down of who was the first to do this and call it pig, right? Because they were all hungry, they were starving. So, and I think it's Simon, because Simon has a huge swing in his personality from the guy who showed up on the island to the dude who ends up crawling through the forest hiding from all the hunters, right?
Right.
These are two very different people who is sketchy, even coming up to Ralph and Nikki. When he does, he's like, hey, y'all need to be real careful because that motherfucker's on the warpath and he's going to kill everybody. And then he dips off, right?
Yeah, he suddenly starts acting as though he has crossed some big, momentous moral Rubicon. But what that Rubicon is, we don't see depicted. We only kind of get implications of it here and there.
So there's two possibilities on that point. Either they killed a kid and served it up as pig, or and he participated and it broke him, or the same thing happened and he refused to participate and therefore was ostracized from the group, but also didn't feel like he could join the other group because that was essentially joining the prey.
And that's something that's happened in a lot of the famous, real world survival situations, Franklin Expedition, Donner Party, and what have you. It seems to inevitably wind up where there is two camps. There's one camp that is willing to consume human flesh, and one camp that is not. And the two groups inevitably wind up separating and going their own way and having as little contact as possible until the cannibals run out of people to cannibalize and come to eat the other guys.
Well, that was kind of all right. So let's do the thing. Hold on, I got so much to say about this freaking movie.
And the next thing's me.
I am a hunter.
You're a failure!
We all have to kill the beast.
You know what's interesting about that trailer is that the music in the trailer sounds exactly like generic 2020s movie music and is totally unlike the actual music that is in the series.
Right. So, there's so much to say. It's like you said, an allegory of society. Welcome in, RLM. The extremes that they end up going through, the iterations of shelter and the variations on how they sleep. I find it weird that they all sleep in a big dog pile like that. That struck me as
I know. Yeah, doesn't that look so great? Sleeping next to your buddy's feet.
But at the same time, how else do you keep track of the little ones?
Yeah, and there is also how do we subdivide our concerns? Is our main concern looking after the littler kids, or is our main concern keeping ourselves alive? And you can kind of feel that tension right from the outset, even though it's not really ever spoken out loud explicitly.
Right.
But the tension is there nonetheless.
And Nikki, from the very beginning, the individual referred to as Piggy, which is just one of those things that floats out there as a reference to, it was a threat. It was a constant threat that if you don't keep being useful, your ass is on the menu, bro. And you know it.
And
you
he is
and
very,
you can't run.
He is very very concerned with where everybody is pissing and shitting, and he's the only one who cares. But he's, you know, he cares more about practical things than some of the other kids do.
That's true, and
including the principle of you don't eat where you shit.
That's true. That is very true. But can you imagine what kind of heinous freaking bowel movements those kids were having after about 5 days of papaya?
Oh,
Probably
yeah, it wouldn't have
like
been
a
pretty at all.
Goose turd, had a white spot on top.
Oh, I know, yeah. Yeah, that must have been something fierce, dude.
Imagine the gas on that island, bro. Whoa.
Yeah, papaya diet, probably not something I'm going to be trying anytime soon. I think
Thank
maybe
you,
not even if it
RLM.
was the only food available to me.
We even went and got a new thing for us to do, and I think I've got this one.
I need you to work this Saturday.
No problem. I might be late, though. The transports are slow on weekends.
What time will you get here?
Monday.
Your Majesty, what do you think about Luke?
I think he's a loser.
Yo, Duque! Pick up the phone!
Yo.
What's
I'm kind of embarrassed to admit how many of those AI Star Wars videos I've been watching, but god damn it, some of them are so funny.
It's what AI is for. It's not for all of this silly
know.
bullshit work they're doing with it and all the defense contracts and stuff. Fuck all that. It's for putting Nicolas Cage in every scene of every movie as every actor.
And also, Soviet Star Trek. Anybody who hasn't seen Soviet Star Trek yet, go watch Soviet Star Trek. You won't be sorry.
Oh man, I still haven't checked it out. I mean, I've been meaning to. I saw the. It's the same channel that did. What was it?
How much trouble could we get in? How much trouble could we get in if we watched it here?
Let me look at it and see what.
I can find it and drop it in the thingy.
Oh wow! Why do they hate me so much?
Why do they hate me?
Apparently, I've already looked it up once. Let's see. Dream Loop Cinema. Part
Yep, that's
3
the
of
one.
Soviet Star Trek Motion Picture Project. Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
How many?
Space.
Hold on.
The final.
I got a question. This is part 3. Do I need to find part 1?
No, they're all brilliant. Just play whichever one.
All right, we're gonna do a little
Space.
bit of this. We'll probably get douche from orbit. It happens once a month, right?
It does, but what do you do?
We are not making money on this as a product. We are reviewing
correct.
this with the intent of criticism and satire, because this is satire and criticism. All right,
And therefore, fair use.
fair use, fair use.
The final revolutionary frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Engels Prize. Its
Why? Why is that so funny?
I know. Why is that so funny?
5-year plan.
Oh wow!
It's 5-year plan.
Yeah.
To liberate strange new worlds. To seek out class traitors and decadent civilizations. To boldly redistribute what no one has redistributed before.
Petram Stewart as Captain Picardov.
To boldly redistribute what no one has redistributed before.
Which is essentially death. It's death.
Oh.
I mean, whether you get hit by the space lasers or starve, either way, their replicators probably don't work.
Oh. Captain Picardov.
Detovsky. Wait, isn't her name already Troyanovich? No, she was what was her race? She was
Betazoid.
Betazoid, that's it. Thank you. God, I was losing my mind, bro.
Leslie off.
That's Q. Spakievich.
It's the guy from it's Dyatlov from Chernobyl. They even mixed in a Chernobyl joke, for God's sake.
Oh wow.
They've got the Chernobyl guy wearing a Star Trek uniform.
It's great.
Anatoly Dyatlov.
The Starship Engels Prize was the jewel of the Socialist Federation of Planets, the most advanced vessel ever constructed. Built over 7 years at the Denibgrad 4 shipyards at a cost of approximately 4.2 million lives, which the...
God damn! It's not even measured in money. Oh! Wow.
And you're right. Stuff like this is what AI is for.
Oh, wow. Just outright lives, not even a dollar figure attached to it. Wow.
The Central Planning Committee logged as acceptable losses. She was sleek, powerful, and covered from stem to stern in motivational banners. She sat now in the spaceport, preparing for her maiden voyage, awaiting only the arrival of her crew and the blessing of the Federation's supreme authority. Supreme Commissar Spakovich stepped aboard the Engels Prize with the quiet confidence of a man who had personally arranged the deaths of everyone who had ever questioned his confidence.
Wow. Hold on, I gotta hear that again.
Authority. Supreme Commissar Spakovich stepped aboard the Engels Prize with the quiet confidence of a man who had personally arranged the deaths of everyone who had ever questioned his confidence. He was half man, half Vulcan, and entirely without conscience.
Spock would be a nasty enemy, bro.
And it shouldn't be that damn funny, just adding Ov and Ovich to everybody's names.
Yeah, no, it is.
Goddamn,
It's great.
funny. It's so freaking funny.
Spakievich.
Spakovich.
Oh, wow.
A combination that had proven uniquely suited to the upper reaches of Federation politics. He delivered his orders to Captain Picardoff in the briefing room. The Engels Prize would seek out new worlds and new civilizations. It would assess them for ideological contamination. It would liberate them by any means necessary and report back with updated quota projections.
Oh.
Ideological contamination. I love that.
Wow. Oh, that's so deep.
The Federation's reach would extend to every corner of the galaxy. The stars themselves would learn the benefits of collective ownership. Picardoff received these orders with the solemn gravity of a man who had never once doubted his own judgment and had the career record.
The definition of hubris.
Sheer fucking hubris.
To prove it. He was a decorated officer, a veteran of 3 liberation campaigns, and the recipient of the Order of the Crimson Star, 2nd class, for his role in the ideological purification of Andoria. That the purification had reduced the Andorian population by 45% was logged as an implementation variance. He was also credited with the invention of...
Oh, there's just some calculating errors there, man. Like, it ain't nothing to worry about.
Implementation variance.
Yeah. You know, those Andorians, they got that knee problem. They just don't bow to motherfuckers.
I love the lingo. The lingo is absolutely spot on. And moreover, if the Soviets had made their own version of Star Trek, it would look exactly like this. Only it wouldn't be a joke.
I'm not sure it is.
The Picardoff maneuver, a tactical gambit in which a starship, outgunned and outmatched, transmits false warp signatures to confuse the enemy before retreating at maximum speed. It was considered a brilliant innovation. Picardoff considered it a fighting withdrawal. The official record called it a strategic advance in the opposite direction. Spakovich departed. The maiden voyage would soon begin. The first order of business was the docking procedure. The Engels Prize had been constructed in 2 sections, a standard Federation design philosophy that required the saucer section and the engineering hull to be joined manually in open space before the vessel could operate.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that
I know.
is-
I cannot get enough of this stuff.
Oh my
I don't
God. No, I can't remember the name of the goddamn ship, but there was a freaking ship that was supposed to join up with some shit. It's some Russian icebreaker or some shit. The hull was built in like 2 pieces, and they were supposed to go out in really calm weather and like sail them into each other, lock them together with ropes, pull them together with cables, and then bolt everything together into one super ship. Never fucking worked. They never got them fuckers anywhere near each other. And it wasn't because of the weather. It was just because they had never considered how difficult it is to sail half a ship.
Yeah, well, I mean, just generally speaking, the Russians as a seafaring people have a decidedly
Yeah,
spotty record,
That's-
let's say.
spotty is. We'll go with spotty. If I'm not mistaken, they're one of the only countries I know of that have both won and lost against their own forces.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked before at great length about the voyage of the 1st Pacific Squadron, which is probably the greatest naval debacle in the history of boats floating on water.
Dude,
That
we
story
gotta
never
do a
gets
deep-
old.
Yeah, no, we got to do a deep dive into that some night. We've got to sit down and talk about the War of the Log.
Oh yeah, when
And the accidental island bombardment because they thought it was an enemy ship.
yeah, or the Kamchatka was the most distinguished vessel in that whole voyage. They were, even when they were in the North Sea between Norway and freaking England, they thought they saw Japanese torpedo boats everywhere, and they would just open fire because they were so drunk they couldn't tell a Japanese
Yeah,
torpedo boat
I
from a
was-
small island.
That's one of the things I wanted you to sick some of your AI buddies on is how much vodka was consumed on that voyage. Was that possibly in any of the manifest? Because it has to be a truly stupendous amount, bro. They lost the battle with a fucking log.
Let's read about the I think it's called the Dogger Bank incident. Yeah, 1904 Russian attack on British trawlers. 21 October 1904. The Baltic fleet of the Imperial Russian Navy mistook civilian British fishing trawlers from Kingston upon Hull in the Dogger Bank area of the North Sea for Imperial Japanese Navy torpedo boats and fired upon them, also firing on each other in the chaos of the melee. 2 British fishermen died, 6 more were injured, 1 fishing vessel was sunk, and 5 more boats were damaged. On the Russian side, 1 sailor and a Russian Orthodox priest aboard the cruiser Aurora were killed by friendly fire. The incident almost led to war between the United Kingdom and the Russian Empire. And all they were trying to do was pass through the neighborhood so they could go fight Japan.
They were seeing
they
Japanese in their soup, bro.
Oh, I know. And I'm sure vodka had more than a little bit to do with it.
It has to, right? Right? I mean, they can't be that incompetent just on its surface.
I mean, you're in the North Sea off of Scotland, and you're convinced you see Japanese torpedo boats. Why would a Japanese torpedo boat be in the North Sea? Unclear. But damn it, I think I see one, and I am going to shoot first and ask questions later. Fucking lock and load, bitches.
Okay. Let's game theory this out. Let's assume that everything we know about this is wrong, right? What is the logical reason for this exchange to have taken place? Is there anything on Earth that could explain why a Russian gunboat would be attacking a English fishing trawler?
Yes, and the first question is, how do you misidentify an English fishing trawler as a Japanese torpedo boat? Yeah,
And furthermore, how do you end up striking friendly ships in the process?
Do you want me to read the background a little bit?
Okay, sure.
The Russian warships involved in the incident were en route to the Far East to reinforce the 1st Pacific Squadron, which we mentioned, stationed at Port Arthur and later Vladivostok during the Russo-Japanese War. The various Russian intelligence agencies were not well coordinated and were prone to producing poor or false reports. Prior to the fleet setting off, Russian intelligence agents had been claiming that there were Japanese officers around the Baltic Sea with torpedoes and that Britain had built Japan 6 torpedo boats. So there's the suspicion. They thought that the British were building torpedo boats for the Japanese. It was well known that enemy intelligence had been heavily active in the region. Torpedo boats, a recent development of the major navies, had the potential to damage and sink large warships and were very difficult to detect, which caused psychological stress to sailors at war. And when you combine that with vodka, you're going to see a lot of Japanese torpedo boats that don't exist. Because of the fleet's alleged sightings of balloons and 4 enemy cruisers the day previously, coupled with the possibility that the Japanese might surreptitiously have sent ships around the world to attack them, Russian Admiral Rozhevensky called for increased vigilance and issued an order that no vessel of any sort must be allowed to get in among the fleet. On 20 October, Rozhevensky received a report from someone that torpedo boats had been seen leaving Norway. He also received an intelligence report from the Russian transport Bakan in the Langland Belt of 4 torpedo boats, which only showed signs on the mizzenmast head so that at a distance, they might be taken for fishing boats. He took the report seriously, quickened his coaling, and commenced sailing. Similar accidents and rumors affected the Russian fleet. There was a general fear of attack with widespread rumors that a fleet of Japanese torpedo boats was stationed off the Danish coast. Talk of the Japanese having mined the seas and alleged sightings of Japanese submarines. Before the Dogger Bank incident, the nervous Russian fleet had fired on fishermen carrying consular dispatches from Russia to them near the Danish coast. No damage was caused because of the Russian fleet's poor gunnery. And drunken condition, most likely.
Oh, wow.
After navigating a non-existent minefield, the Russian fleet sailed into the North Sea. The disaster of 21 October began in the evening when the captain of the supply ship Kamchatka, there she is, our good friend Kamchatka, which was last in the Russian line, took a passing Swedish ship for a Japanese torpedo boat and radioed that she was being attacked.
So...
Good old Kamchatka.
Let me get this straight. The Russian military built up such a paranoid, delusional existence of a fictional patrol fleet of torpedo boats that had been mizzened out to look like fishing boats. And were actively fighting a war against imaginary opponents with nets.
And this is when the
took losses.
Exactly. And this is when torpedoes and torpedo boats had only just been invented in the last few years, and so there was a lot of paranoia among all of the world's major navies. The Russians weren't the only ones that were paranoid about it, but they were probably the only ones to combine paranoia with drunkenness to quite this effect. But there was a lot of fear that, little torpedo boats were going to wind up sinking all the capital ships in all of the world's fleets, and there was nothing that could be done about it. So it's not like the paranoia doesn't have a reasonable source. The Russians just took that paranoia to a completely absurd level that was above and beyond anybody else's.
Plot twist. What if the English were perpetrating this particular defilade? What if this was all the principle of deception first? And when the rumor of torpedo boats popped up, they went, damn right, we built 37 of them. Oh, wait, I wasn't supposed to tell you that. My bad. And now we got a bunch of dead fishermen, 1 sank trawler, and 4 dead Russians. Like, how'd that happen?
Yeah. Well, and you've also got very slipshod intelligence reports that are contributing to the paranoia that already exists, and just add that to mixing that in with a little vodka, and you've quickly got a cocktail of friendly fire casualties and really shambolic state of operations. And they're not even 10% of the way through with their voyage at this point, and they are already firing on each other.
God. Oh, Russia. You
So by the ti-
silly bear.
by the time they limp all the way around, half the world down to Port Arthur, so they can finally do battle with the Japanese fleet. I mean, they were sitting duck is a term that doesn't even do it justice. They were,
Their livers are pickled.
yeah, they were lucky to even get to the site of the battle without sinking themselves, or in a friendly fire incident, and that wasn't the only friendly fire incident on that voyage, by the way. I mean, there's a reason why that voyage is the source of more comedy than any naval operation in world history.
God, it should be a series, bro.
Oh, I know. I
Netflix
can't
should
believe
do that
I can't
next.
believe seriously that I will make that series if somebody gives me $20 million, and it'll be
Right?
goddamn
It'll
hilarious.
be great. It'll be fucking
Yeah.
great. It'll be historically accurate, even the things that you wouldn't believe. Because get this. At some point in time during this voyage, I think it was also the Kamchatka. I'm not certain about that, but one of these ships sighted a rather large object running dark in the night. And so, and for whatever reason, the different captains, whoever was in command, decided to break up his fleet into two parts and split the object and then fire upon it. And once it had been fired upon, they opened up the lights, and one ship reported that it had been fired upon. The other ship reported that it was a log, and the ship that had reported being fired upon continued firing on the log, bouncing basically rounds off of the water into the friendly ships.
And it has to be borne in mind that this is 1904, 1905, so there is no radio communication yet. They are passing all this information with nautical flag signals, which just adds to the whole shambolic nature of the thing.
This one happened at night. There were no flags. They were using flash signals, and so no signals were sent.
Signal lamp, yep.
Right. No signal was sent horizontally until after the fleet had split. And no signals were sent until the first shells had been fired, at which point in time communications opened. But communications with signal lamps kind of takes a second. Like, it's not just it's not radio, bro. I can't send you a text real easy on this thing.
And when the first, go ahead.
By the time the reports of injured and wounded come back, you couldn't convince that captain he wasn't under fire by nobody, because he had wounded on board. And so he just kept firing, and the ships had to sail in different directions to get out of the line of fire. And he just plowed that freaking log into the ocean into shreds.
Oh, I know. Because, God, what do I want to do at this point? Do I want to admit this is a friendly fire incident, or do I want to just keep shooting and hope the enemy actually exists? Fuck it,
If
just
I
keep
remember
shooting.
right, that report went into the log as an actual Japanese boat until like years after the whole thing had been swept under the rug. And it came out in like after action reports that over 2/3 of the sailors said it was a log. But there was this one ship and a handful of sailors on every ship all said they saw a torpedo boat, right? And so it was kind of chalked up to, well, shit happens at night.
It's just like all the Lord of the Flies kids thought they saw that beast in the jungle.
But
mass delusion is a powerful thing.
They might have seen the beast. The beast might have been the hunters. That's the thing, is like no one was ever, Ralph nor Nikki nor Jack was ever with them when they reported, quote unquote, seeing the beast. And actually, after every reporting of the beast being seen, one of the Litlands was missing, and there was a feast.
I wonder if there's any correlation between those two things.
Absolutely not. You see, it's just silly. And there's also no reason why Simon goes all schizophrenic about halfway through for no apparent reason. I wonder how many of them kids were suffering from malaria.
A similar thing happened in the Terror. Remember that? Well, we've got quite a bit of meat. Just don't ask us about where it came from. If you're hungry, we'll take care of you. Just try not to ask too many questions.
Yeah, just don't ask too many. We don't have any dogs. we're completely out of a bear attacked us a while back, and we managed to kill it. We ate all of that.
Yeah, we don't have any other kind of. We don't have any other kind of mammalian carcass from which we might procure meat, but we have meat. Just don't ask any questions.
delicious long pork, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. And then, of course, 6-7 months later, when the First Pacific Squadron finally makes its way is ready to do battle with the Japanese fleet, I'll give you one guess what the first Russian ship to be sunk was.
Is it our old girl Kamchatka?
It was our old friend Kamchatka.
Well, there it is. Remind me to never name my boat that.
Although 50 of her crew survived, and I bet they had some stories to tell.
That they could never speak on ever in a bajillion years. Because nothing about that trip, nothing was flattering about that trip.
Although maybe post 1917, after the communist revolution, they might have been able to talk about it freely, because then the communist regime would have been very eager to hear unfavorable stories being told about the old imperial regime.
Yeah,
it seems like.
And the old imperial regime was very kind of stockaded into their thought. They were still on the formula of throwing more chests at machine guns will win the battle.
And also the disaster of the Battle of Tsushima and the accompanying humiliation of losing the Russo-Japanese War, that, of course, is one of the proximate causes of the first Russian Revolution, which happens in the latter part of 1905, which historically we look at today as kind of a prelude to the big communist revolution 12 years later in 1917. But it winds up with the Tsar stops being an absolute monarch, and they kind of force a constitutional monarchy sort of arrangement on him, and they start a legislature and all that kind of stuff. But it's you can kind of already see which way the wind is blowing as far as whether the imperialists or the communists are going to wind up being ascendant. But that first semi-revolution in 1905. I did a video about this once. It was especially hilarious, the effects that had on the Navy, because as far as the sailors in the Navy were concerned, well, all of our officers have no authority anymore, and we are going to run every ship democratically. And we're going to take a vote on everything we do. So we are forming the Central Committee for the steering of the ship. And we've got the Central Committee for the fueling of the ship, so we've got a Central Committee that's going to take a vote on everything that the boat needs to do. And they quickly discovered why ships have captains.
Yeah. One incontrovertible leader whose responsibility it is to make sure all of that shit happens. And it's why he has absolute autonomy.
Yes. And
because here's the thing. If you fuck around on a ship, you will find out whether it's fire or a broken leg. You can't just run off to the ER. There's no ER.
Yeah.
You stub a toe, that's gangrene in 3 months.
And it's interesting to note also that even in the Royal Navy, which was so far ahead of most operational developments and wound up, being the main innovators of modern naval management and logistics, it wasn't until the mid part of the 18th century that the roles of master and commander were combined, which is the whole reason why Master and Commander, the book series and the movie, have that name, because those used to be separate offices. The master is in charge of navigating the ship. The commander is in charge of the men aboard the ship. And even the English, it took them hundreds of years to figure out, we need to have one single sole unreviewable authority figure for everything. And so Master and Commander, even though we started having one guy hold both of those jobs, we still referred to them separately, Master and Commander, until that fell out of use gradually after a few decades, and we just started calling him the captain.
And a captain's necessary. That this is also true for aircraft, spaceships. Anywhere you're going to have a group of people alone in a sardine can, you need to have one dude who is irrefutably the leader, who can throw your ass out if it's required.
Yes, because there are certain sets of circumstances where democracy does not work, where you can't take a vote on things, where you need to have one point of authority whose authority is inscrutable, unreviewable, and one of the hard lessons we've learned over the course of many centuries and millennia about how to conduct ourselves on ships at sea and later on planes in the sky. But it's the same principle. You don't have time to take votes on things sometimes.
Right. Imagine an emergency on our committee ship, right? We are sailing into an iceberg. Steerage, you need to make a boat, left or right. Which side's the iceberg on? Well, I think the iceberg's probably smaller than they're saying. Has anybody actually gone and looked at the iceberg? Do we know what the iceberg's opinions are? What gender is the iceberg? Right.
The Central Committee for the steering of the ship will meet immediately.
The Central Committee for the Emergency Operations will meet immediately.
We are under fire. The Central Committee for the firing of munitions will meet to decide if we should fire back. Yeah, that's how a communist navy winds up looking, and it don't work too well. So you kind of
work too well.
Had to bring back the old arrangement and scrap the half dozen central committees.
So, if I'm not mistaken, and I don't know a lot about modern Russian, Soviet, whatever you want to call it, military, but I know back in the 80s, the way they ran it was there was one irrefutable captain, but then there was a commissar officer who certain ways outranked the captain, but not in anything real on an everyday, day-to-day basis. If the captain assigned him to quarters, his ass went to quarters, and that's all there was to that. You know,
and that's a big component in the story of The Hunt for Red October.
Oh yeah, it's a great one. That's a really good movie.
He has to fake the death of the political officer in order to proceed with his plan. Because, like you said, there are, to all intents and purposes, for most things, the political officer can overrule the captain pretty much whenever he feels like it. Sometimes he has to call Moscow. Sometimes he doesn't.
I mean, he's got to have a hell of a good reason to do so. But if he has reason, yes. We'll convene a committee on determining whether or not he has reason immediately.
Mm-hmm. And the only other arrangement that's anything like that is really there are certain circumstances where the ship's surgeon can overrule the captain if he believes that the captain is mentally or physically incapacitated to the point where he can't effectively wield command.
So there I don't remember the name of the ship, but there was a voyage going to Tahiti or Fiji or something like that, and the captain, on the way to this place, at some point in time, the captain took a fall down the stairs, cracked his freaking skull, and started acting crazy, right? And there was this big debate on the ship about, like, what do we do? The captain's clearly lost his fucking marbles. What do we do? And after allowing the captain a couple of days to kind of walk around and talk crazy and stuff, while constantly chasing him around, trying to get him to, like, eat and drink and keep his brain from swelling and crap, the surgeon finally pulls the plug on it, and it's like, all right. And he's like, Master Lewis, you're the first sergeant. You are now in command of the ship. Master Mavens, you are now the navigator. We are taking this gentleman below decks. And the captain is like, you can't do this. I'm the king of the trumpet.
You bastards.
You bastards. How dare you? They pretty much hogtied his ass and threw him in his quarters for like 3 weeks.
Scotty Waddles makes a good call. That's why I put this comment up. The Longest Day is one of a very short list of movies that I could watch over and over again until the end of time.
Right. It's a good one. You were talking about looking for an old movie to review, to go over, and I came across, and do you specifically want to go for The Duke, or
no,
is anything on? Because what was the name of that movie? It's not John Wayne. It's fucking Clint Eastwood. It's an early Clint Eastwood film. I never get her. It's not A Few Dollars More. It's not.
Is
It's
it
the
one of the
one-
spaghetti westerns?
It's the one where he gets hanged at the beginning, and then he goes through the rest of the movie and doesn't really talk. He just kills motherfuckers.
Oh yeah, it's the
High Plains Drifter. High Plains Drifter.
Yes, you're right.
I
Yeah,
was
that's a good one, dude.
this has been months ago. I had to go do something out of town, and I can't remember what it was I had to go do. But I come walking through the living room, and the very opening shots of High Plains Drifter was playing, and I ended up standing there watching 2/3 of that movie, drinking 2 or 3 cups of coffee before I left. I was late as fuck getting to where I was going, and when I got there, they were like, "Dude, what the fuck?" And I was like, "High Plains Drifter came on." That was my excuse.
Yeah, High Plains Drifter is later than I thought it was. That was made in '73. That was after he did the first Dirty Harry, and the same year that Magnum Force came out. So he was kind of easing himself out of westerns at that point and being more of a cop action hero type guy.
Right. This is another good reason for AI. I would like to see Dirty Harry and Die Hard.
Yeah. Man, Eastwood sure has a good filmography, man.
He really does, bro. I was looking at it the other day, and I was like, "Oh, that's a good movie. Oh, that's a good movie."
Just
Oh, that's
all
a good
this
movie.
great stuff in such a short period of years. The Eiger Sanction. What a great fucking movie that is. I love that flick, dude. And I'm frankly surprised nobody has remade that one, because you could do a pretty good remake of that picture. The mountain climbing scenes and so forth. I mean, they did a pretty good job for it being 1975, but they were kind of limited to. I guess it would have been front projection for the climbing scenes, but. And would it be as
Probably.
good without Eastwood? Of course it wouldn't. But my God, Dirty Harry 71, High Plains Drifter 73, Magnum Force 73, The Eiger Sanction 75, Outlaw Josie Wales 76, Escape
That's
from
another
Alcatraz
good one.
79. That's just boom, 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 boom. There aren't many missteps there, dude.
Not really.
And he is still with us
Yeah.
and still working.
Absolute unit. He's an absolute unit, dude. I'm telling you.
Oh, I know. He is the unit of all units.
Totally doing the thing. Star Trek, but it's Cheers. This is
Oh,
why
what do you got?
I exist.
Oh, I know.
Hold on.
Let's have a look.
It's the intro tune for Star Trek, but hold on, god damn it. All right. Okay. Yeah.
Making your way in the shuttle bay takes everything you got.
Oh, baby.
Taking a break from all your duties sure would help a lot. Or wouldn't you like to beam away?
That's good shit. That's
People who
good
say
shit,
they
man.
hate AI are just not looking at the right stuff.
That's what it is. They're not looking at the right stuff.
Sometimes you boldly go where everybody knows your name.
I can't. That's all I can do, bro.
Oh my God, that's fantastic.
Okay, we'll boldly go where we're wanted.
It's a pretty good piece of parody lyric writing too. Sometimes you'll boldly go.
I'll be honest, I'm absolutely terrified of that dude.
I do respect a good bit of parody lyric writing.
Yeah, you would, wouldn't you? Picard looking has done one 6 days ago called Star Trek Voyager, but the computer is Australian.
What the? Where the bloody hell am I? Hello? John Luke? Bev? What is this place?
Sorry, Captain. I know it's irritating. I'll try to shut it down.
Hold on a minute.
Who's this?
This is Captain Janeway.
Captain?
Are you attempting to communicate?
Of course I'm trying to bloody communicate. What's wrong with you people?
Even if it understands what you're saying, it may not know how to respond.
Who's this drunk?
Australians.
You know what just now occurs to me? Has there ever been an Australian Star Trek character?
I'm not aware of one right off the top of my head, actually.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank. Seems like there would have been one.
There about has to have been one, right? Right?
I know it seems like there would have to be one, but I none comes to mind.
You bloody wank.
Maybe Gene Roddenberry was an anti-Australian bigot. We never knew.
Hey, how about it? What do you think, chat? Reckon Gene Roddenberry was an Aussie hater?
What you're up to here? What are we doing?
Adjust his parameters to the following specifications.
Oh, things are about to get spicy.
Give him the education of a 19th century third-year student at Trinity College.
Oh, Kath, you really need to get out more, don't you?
Ooh. She's
Fair
clearly
dinkum, mate.
wanting. She's fair dinkum, mate. She clearly wants to be put in her place. Did you hear what she just requested?
Yep.
Shit, this is not gonna go.
Captain
Reinitialize
Janeway,
the
you're
subspace
a fine
transponder.
little Sheila.
This is gonna be horrible.
Now is not a good time, Doc.
Why not?
Because I'm watching the cricket.
And they say I'm difficult.
You
Yes.
are difficult.
Reroute power from the replicator system.
Watching the
Well,
cricket.
it's the second innings, mate.
Clarify.
Well, that's when the team's gone back into bat for the second time.
Any suggestions?
Yeah, wait till tea break. Or come back.
Yes.
Fuck me. Oh,
I
no.
love the cricket references. That makes it all worthwhile. They just hit it out of the park. They just hit that over the boundary for 6.
Oh God! No, stop.
Back on day 5.
Make him more provocative.
More provocative. How about I make him more Australian? What was that look for? You could probably do with an Australian being stuck in the outback of the Milky Way.
Increase the character's height by 3 centimeters.
He's a good-looking fella. Let's get those dancing shoes on, Cap.
Hey,
Fair
Captain
dinkum.
Janeway, you want to see me didgeridoo?
Wow. All right. Okay, I think that's enough of that. I can sit and watch that stupid shit all day. I have. It's not
I
pretty.
feel like I need to start doing an Australian character now. That's a voice I can do. I can't do Trump, but I can play Australian, mate.
Yeah. I mean, all you have to do is empty out all of your brain wrinkles at the same time and speak clearly. Or
I
am
still can't
wrong?
tell the I still can't tell the difference between an Australian and a New Zealander, though.
So, it's subtle, right? It's subtle. It's
I know,
more in the
like I can-
choice of words than it is in how they say the words, if you get what I mean.
Yep. Yeah, it's like sometimes I think I can hear the difference, but I can't describe the difference. It's a tough
Yeah.
one.
Like, I went into accents is one of my things, and I went into a local hardware store, this been years ago, and I walk in and there is a straight New Zealander standing there cussing, blessing these poor gentlemen out because all she needs is a loo. She needs a loo. Her handyman told her that you can get a loo in a box, and she wants a loo in a box. And these poor Southern gentlemen had no hope of understanding what she was saying. And I walked in and looked at her. It was like, how long you been in the country? She's like, 14 fucking months, mate. I was like, right. Okay, let me help out here. And I did the thing. So you do the thing.
Where's the loo? Where's the privy? I've got to go to the privy, mate. Dying over here. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks ever so much for joining us here on the Blast Radius. I promise to stop talking Australian here any moment. There, it's gone now. Again, thanks for joining us. As always, hope you enjoyed the repartee and the discussion in the Soviet Star Trek. Soviet Star Trek is always fun. That is the gift that keeps on giving. I recommend you go and watch all of those videos that are on that channel. And until then, hope you have a great day tomorrow and a day after that, and the rest of your week passes by agreeably. We will see you next week, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, as we always do, except last week. But what can I say? I was in beautiful, lovely, captivating Tucson, Arizona, so sometimes that happens. We will see you next time. Do not comply. Get off my lawn.
This one's for you, buddy. Nice.